And then he realizes at the end that he also used his force fields as a condom.
Uh-huh. That's the sexiest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I know! I'm Melody Carlisle.
And I'm Sabrina Bradley.
And this is Heaving Bosoms. This is the podcast where best friends recap romance novels and other kissing media that makes us swoon, snark, and refills our cups.
Whether you've read the book or are coming in blind, we'll lay bare every delicious scene and revel in the tropes and subgenres that make romance amazing.
All right, listener, strap in and strap on. Headphones are highly recommended.
Well, hello, Melody. Long time no see.
Yes, hello. It is wonderful to see your face. Sabrina, as one of the fastest readers I've ever met, how do you experience that in your brain?
Oh my God. And you don't even know what I've been up to the last 3 days.
Tell listener and me, Melody, how you experience it in your brain, please.
That's a great question. And I never really know how to answer.
And wait, no. Yeah. And I should give a disclaimer here that I totally understand if you can't adequately describe it. Because I remember having a conversation on the podcast a while ago where I thought that I couldn't hear my own voice in my head.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why, because that's exclusively how I think. Is just hearing my voice in I think
wild.
The reason that I'm a really slow reader is because I'm literally narrating it in my brain.
Narrating it to yourself? Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely not.
And I don't know how else to do it. I don't know how. So I can't go fast at all.
Oh my gosh. I can't even.
Isn't that wild?
That's
and I've always been a slow reader. But I don't understand how anybody else reads if you're not hearing it in your head. So can you try to describe it?
I'm just taking it. It's I'm not imagining anything. There's nothing happening up there except for occasionally I'll get impressions kind of.
Yeah, I don't think in pictures at all.
I wouldn't call them pictures. I want to imagine what's happening on the page, I literally have to pause, read it line by line, build it piece by piece, and layer it line by line.
And it's never a clear picture. It's more of an impression or an emotional.
So the answer is I just do it. My brain just goes. I have no idea how to explain.
Does it just wash over your brain? Is it just?
It's kind of just an endless line of text that just scrolls through my head. Okay. And I just bing, bing, bing. And I also definitely 10,000% am somebody who reads based on the first letter and the last letter of the word.
Oh, I'm not. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I have to pause and go back to be wait, I think I got some words. I think I got some words wrong in that sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. But I think that's why I'm such a slow reader.
Interesting. I have read 2 books in less than 24 hours.
Yeah, I believe that.
I did go to my
plus
full-time job.
Hofus.
And we recorded last night.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh my God. Mel.
What's up?
Speaking of reading, have you ever done the thing where you read the first book in a series and you're not for me, and then you go back to it for whatever reason, the second book, years later, and then you can't fucking put it down?
And that's when it hits?
Oh my God, I'm so excited. That just hit on a 20-book series and I'm about to, I finished the 2 books. It's going to be a 26 book series because it's an alien romance series by Honey Phillips. And the first one's like Anna and the Alien, I think. And it was fine. Like, I don't remember why I wasn't a fan. Like,
sure. Sometimes there's no particular reason. And you might even not a fan.
I think I just wasn't
You're just not in the mood
anymore.
Yeah.
And then, so I was like, I'm just never going to finish this. And then I don't know what bit me in the ass last night. I was like, I'm going to give this another shot.
Was it last night that you texted me, I regret starting this book?
No, that was the book that we are recording on today. And it was like 11:30, I think.
So good.
Listener, for context, I'm usually like in bed by 10. I'm asleep by like 10:30, usually. It was like midnight probably before I got into bed that night because I was just like, I could not put this book down.
It's so good. Well, listener, are you curious as to why I'm so fixated on being a slow reader and why? It's because I did have to eyeball read this book. And there is absolutely no difference in speed. Actually, I can usually do audiobooks faster because I can make the robot go faster. I can go at like 1.5 speed.
You can't do 1.5 in your brain.
No.
Oh, Melody.
I mean, I can, but like I won't get as much of it. You know what I mean? Anyway, so I have not finished this book, but I'm going to. I really like it.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with it a little bit, and I wish there was more of them.
Okay, listener, we are doing Love for the Cold-Blooded or The Part-Time Evil Minion's Guide to Accidentally Dating a Superhero by Alex Gabriel. I fucking loved book. So I had some issues, which I chalk up to the fact that it came out in 2014. Some of the terminology that gets used.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
but
there's
like,
a couple of times, but yeah, 2014.
Oh my God.
Book is so good.
It's so good.
The main character is like a chatty, charming, just really accepts himself for the mess that he is.
Let me tell you, I almost read a different book accidentally.
What?
Because there's another book that came out recently. It's like the supervillain's guy, or like assistant to the supervillain or something like that.
Okay.
And I totally, in my brain, thought that's what we were reading. And I caught it at like the last second. I was like, this doesn't seem correct. This came out after we got this 5-star rec, I'm pretty sure. So it's only by happenstance that we didn't read 2 separate books accidentally.
Wow. Yeah. I love this book. The world building is excellent. Even when
it's
like
so
it just comes out, it's just stated as fact, and then you have to sort of piece it together yourself after a little while.
This is definitely a show don't tell book.
For sure.
And it's incredible.
Yeah. The other hero is definitely an autistic king.
Oh my God.
And I love him so much.
It's been a while since I've read a book. Well, that's not true. We just read Ravished.
Yeah, but that was the heroine. A little bit,
that was the heroine. But like, it's been a hot minute between those two, like before those 2 books that I've read a character that I'm like, oh, this bitch is autistic.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. It's not
love
stated,
him.
But like, oh, it's just
but he's perfect in every way.
Yeah, let's just jump right into it.
Listen, Pat is a student. He wants to be an urban planner. And he has a nighttime job as the house manager for a Richie rich boy who lives in a mansion and likes quail eggs on pizza.
Okay.
Do you have something you'd like to say about that?
Nicholas and his food kills me. Yeah. So Pat makes this pizza and then promptly puts it in a carry-out pizza box.
Yep.
And sticks it on the dumbwaiter and sends it up to the thing.
To his superhero laboratory.
Yes. And then, like 5 minutes later, a call comes down that says, send up the boy. Or like, send up a boy.
It says, so send up a guy. Or something like that. Because it's not boy. That would be creepy as fuck.
You're right.
Yeah. We are not going to do that to Nick. But I really like that phrasing because it's very obvious that like he didn't press record for the first part of his request. You know what I mean?
He doesn't have to press anything. The AI is just listening. Hey, AI, tell them to send up a guy. is what I'm pretty sure happened.
Okay, yeah, okay, maybe. But he just wasn't. So he looks at this and he's like, I have no idea what that means, but I guess, like, I'm a guy, I'll go see what he needs. And then he goes up there and his boss just, like, he says, you're short.
And blonde.
Pat is like, yeah, and blonde. And Pat is like, okay, wow, I'm 5'10", which is a perfectly average height. Thank you so much around the world.
Pat's inner monologue, this entire book, is
the voice
perfection.
in this is amazing. Oh,
yes.
The voice is so good. And so then the boss just, like, strips off his shirt and he is a superhero, model hunk man.
Nick is an underwear model hot.
Yeah.
And boy, howdy. I'm not mad about it.
No. And then he looks Pat dead in his beautiful face and he says, so are you going to have sex with me or what? And Pat is like, I mean, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. So he's like, yeah, absolutely. We can do that. Because he says he always gets shot down.
Mm-hmm. But my favorite thing, by rights, or to be exact, by the time-honored West Sister dating rules, Pat should have collected his shirt and cap and slammed the door on his way out, preferably vowing bloody vengeance, though that part was optional. What Pat actually did was kick off his sneakers and struggle out of his jeans in preparation for getting on the bed. Turned out, Pat had tragically low standards. Sad, but hardly a surprise. It's just so perfect.
And he is a bisexual, not short king.
Uh-huh.
Which is
short.
Incredible.
Very important. This is stated
not short.
multiple times in the book. He is not short.
I'm not even saying that in a defensive way. The man is just not short.
That's what I'm saying.
You know? So Nick, his boss, the superhero, starts naked prowling up to him on the bed like a panther.
Hang on. Before any of this, Nick looks Pat dead in his beautiful face.
Yeah.
And says, suck my dick, slut.
You little slut.
You little slut.
Suck my dick, you little slut.
And Pat's like,
no, I thought that was when he prowls up and then he stands up on the bed, which was notable to me, Melody. Okay. And that's when he says, suck my dick, you little slut. And Pat is just, like, adorably not into it. He's like, that sounded so corny and lame, and, like, I can't. And so he just flatly refuses. He's just like, let's do other stuff. Like, let's make out. Let's do whatever. He just sort of jazz hands away from the blowjob.
And then they do it. Nick tops Pat and just fucks him real good. At one point, he is fucking him from behind in doggy and growls into his ear, you're beautiful like this. I'm going to fuck you so hard.
Yeah.
Nicholas, where was this? Actually, to be clear, though, I would respond very differently from Pat to suck my dick, you little slut.
Well, I think it's got to be the mood, right? Like, Nick didn't do anything to turn him on or, like, be
into it.
Yeah, and so it's just, like, if that comes out of nowhere, I'm sorry. Like, that's going to be lame as fuck.
Also, yeah. Well, also, a stranger.
Just sounds like a bad porno. Yeah.
It is a bad porno. He's literally the pizza delivery guy.
Well, and this is also so good because he's like, we're like acting out a bad porno. You're like the guy who orders the pizza and I'm like the delivery boy who gets fucked. And Nick is like, what? No, that's not at all what we're doing. And then just, like, kisses him again. And I love the amount that both of these heroes will just, like, ask a question or say something and then the other one will look at them and be like, dude, you are so weird. Like, you're so weird. You're the weirdest person I've ever met.
That's literally word for word stated multiple times in this book. You are the weirdest fuck I've ever met.
You're so weird.
And then after the best orgasm of Pat's life, he goes and takes a shower in a spaceship shower.
Yeah.
I need one of these because this thing blow dries you.
It'll
does
coif
all the
your hair. It does all the stuff.
It's crazy, except he doesn't let it do that because we learn that he has unruly curly hair.
Curly girls cannot be blow-dried like that, okay? We can't.
No, not a wind tunnel situation.
No. Oh, my God. So Nick is sleepy in bed,
And Pat, on his way leaving, he just gets dressed and leaves. And then he's like, hey.
Well, no,
Nick-
wait. He goes up to the bed and he's like, all right, dude, well, I guess I'm going to take off. And Nick is like bleary-eyed and he's like, okay. And then tell them, as he's walking out the door, tell them.
He says, hey, Nikki, there's something I gotta tell you. Nicholas raised his face again slowly, still all bleary and sleepy, but now also with an annoyed vertical crease carved between his brows. Chances were he didn't like being called Nikki. Tough luck. Pat had earned it. You're hot enough to make up for a multitude of sins, and you're definitely a good kisser. But I won't lie, your dirty talk is the pits, man. Like, absolutely subterranean, tunneling to the center of the earth territory, if you catch my drift. Pat paused briefly to think over what he'd said and nodded to himself in satisfaction. His father always said that if you were going to criticize someone, you should lead with a compliment. You should also be encouraging and show concrete ways the suggested change would improve the situation. So Pat went on to explain, I mean, I have no standards to speak of, so it was fine. But if you ever want to get laid again, you have got to shape up, bro. Do yourself a favor here.
Like, lost my mind.
Listener, there's going to be so many quotes this episode. I'm so sorry. There's also going to be so much cackling because, oh my God, I was laugh out loud constantly this entire book.
Yeah. Frankly, I'm really sad that the most appropriate narrator for this would have XY chromosomes, probably. Because, I mean, this is such a fun book. It needs an audiobook.
Oh my God, it would be such...
I
want it to be like a full cast podcast, radio show production. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I want to hear the fighting in the background.
I'll be one of those sisters. Yeah.
Oh, count me. I'm not even a narrator and count me the fuck in. I would have so much goddamn fun. So we find out the next morning when, no, it's not the next morning. It's when he gets back downstairs. The AI
is screaming at him.
And he's like, why is it screaming? Turns out what Nicholas meant was send up a companion, aka a sex worker who's going to be paid $3,000
for the sex.
Yeah. By the way, this is definitely one of those moments where I was like immediately slapped in the face with the fact that this book was written 10 years ago, though, because the word hooker is used extensively.
Oh, see, and I didn't have any problem with that just because Pat's so quirky. I didn't see it as a demeaning thing or anything like that. I just saw it as him being like a cookie guy. Him? Yeah.
I felt like I got slapped in the face the first time I read it, and then I just whimsied the rest of the fucking book, and it was not an issue. Like, it was never said in a bad way. Like, he was totally fine. He was like, I don't have a problem with sex work.
No, in fact, he steps into the role of sex worker enthusiastically, as you know. So then the AI is screaming because it needs a vendor to pay. And it wants it right the fuck now because the AI does not fuck around. And so he's looking and there's like a preferred list of vendors / companions.
They're rated.
Of course they're rated. How else would you know who to start with? You know what I mean? And they're all exactly the same. They're all even taller than Nick.
They all look like Nick, though.
They're dark-haired and dark-eyed and like really, 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 really tall, which is why 5'10" is short. And so, first of all, he's like, oh my God, he only fucks underwear model clones of himself? That's a whole thing. And then he's like, I mean, I could do so much with $3,000. I need a new laptop. I need a coat for the winter. I don't have a coat for the winter. I'm a starving student.
10,000%. I am Pat in this scenario.
Absolutely.
I would have been way worse at covering my tracks.
No, I just wouldn't have been able to get a bank account that is different from my bank account that I already gave them.
So one of the things that we learn, and it's not ever explicitly stated, but we learn through like just him talking about his family and we start to get the hint. He is the son of a supervillain, and his whole family are like supervillains in training, except for his dad, who is
he's just a serpent slut.
Uh-huh. Yeah, his dad and his mom met on the job, and I'll explain to you in full detail, Melody, at the end of this book what a serpent slut does exactly, because
I
it's pretty
cannot wait.
fantastic.
I cannot wait because where I'm at right now in the book, it's only been described as like the aesthetics of Serpentissima or whatever her name is. And so I just pictured them as like male Princess Leia's by Jabba the Hutt.
Boy,
you know,
you are right on. Add approximately a gallon of body oil and you are accurate.
But then it's creepy that her son is one of them.
Don't worry about it. It's so good.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Because I had the same moment and you're probably going to... Wait, just fucking wait. It
Okay.
gets so...
I believe it. I can't wait to read it. So anyway, he calls one of his sisters and he's like, hey, don't ask me why. I just need a bank account that you can put a random LLC on. Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, okay, I've got one that's been established for about 12 years but never used. Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
So he puts... His name is Patrick West, okay?
Do you know how long it took me to this would not have worked in an audio format. Because he spells
I think
Patrick West, but in the most fucked up way possible.
He spells it Padraig.
Padraigh, and then West is Ouest. Patrick West.
It's so funny.
Oh my God. It's so good.
So he gets paid those 3,000 thalers. That's huge.
Yes. So then we get to learn a little bit more. Oh, but then he gets fucking called out by the normal house manager the next night when he gets there because she's like, I can't believe that you just chose a random companion. Yeah. How could you?
And like, where'd you find him?
That fast. Because, like, to be clear, the request came in and he was up there like 5 minutes later. The fact that Nicholas just took that all in stride.
Yep, he just had no questions at all.
No questions
This guy was already on the premises.
Oh my gosh. So we get to a really good look into this universe, this world. God,
yeah.
The world building in this book is so good. Why
aren't there
not
17 books?
50 book series for every side character.
No pressure and stuff, but like I just need you to know that your brilliance would be served well with 17 books at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Minimum.
It's fine. It's fine. Follow your muse and your bliss and all of that, but just know that we love this so much we would like 17 of them.
Oh my God. I have to just stop saying it's so good. We just gotta go.
I know. So here's the thing. A lot of things are presented just as fact because they are facts in this universe. Mm-hmm. One of them is that there are heroes and there are challengers from Patrick's point of view. Mm-hmm. Everybody else calls them villains.
From Patrick's point of view,
yep,
heroes are called hoagies.
Which is also hilarious.
I loved the fact that, like, we got this look into how perspective matters in this kind of situation. Especially because half these supervillains, I'm on your side, bro.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, there's good supervillains and there's bad superheroes.
Yes. Just like it would be regularly, you know? Mm-hmm. So we know at some point that his mom is Serpentissima.
Mm-hmm.
Serpentissima, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. And he hasn't seen her for 2 years. We find out it's because she's been hibernating to shed her human skin and take on her snake villain skin again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Serpent rising.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She took a break so that she could spend a little bit more time with the kids.
After her last attempt at world domination, she took a break from world domination to raise her children, and now she's back, baby.
Yeah, she's back, baby. Her second ascension.
And it's so cute because his dad keeps calling like once a week to be like, I'm so excited. You should see how lovely she is. Her scales are gold and I'm so happy for her. And this ascension is going to be even better than the last one.
And it's so cute.
He's so proud of his wife.
Yes, he's her number one fan. Anyway, he's out the next day, like trying to get an album that he really, really wants. The band, importantly to me for no reason, is called Bad Mad Rad. And when that happens, there's a big superhero, supervillain clash that happens. And he's like, I don't have time for this. I need to get out of here before it like becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But he gets caught in the middle of it, except that he recognizes the villain.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like trying to sneak up to her to grab his bag that has his CD in it. And she's like, oh my God, Patrick! And then just like grabs him by the scruff of the neck, essentially, and zooms off and deposits him on a rooftop where nobody can hear them so that she can like posture as if she's like saying terrible things out loud, but she's really saying like, how have you been, darling? I can't believe I haven't seen you since you were like this small. Oh, and he's like cowering,
He's having to remember to like play the good hostage.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So then Nicholas, the Silver Paladin, we have a bunch of hoagies come rolling in, okay?
Yes.
Nicholas is basically Iron Man, but better, okay?
Yeah.
Like, he's got
force fields that do some things.
And like a mirrored visor, and he's got that perfect jaw to just stand there menacingly and look like a God. Nick is so hot, I can't breathe. Okay, like the way he is described, I'm like, this is mine. This is mine.
Mm-hmm. I'll take it. Sure.
Yeah. So Nicholas shows up and then grabs
Patrick, and he's
Patrick
like,
off the roof.
What are you doing here?
And Patrick's like,
Patrick's just giggling. He's like, how is this my life? How is this real? And he gets put down on the ground and he's like, you're like not great at this,
By the way, I totally ship Ariadne and Dr. Destiny.
Absolutely.
There is no way that they do not have secret hero villain sex.
Mm-hmm.
And are madly in love with each other, okay?
Yeah. They have to don disguises to go on vacay together.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ariadne is the hero and Dr. Destiny is the villain. And Dr. Destiny, notably, is trying to take down a giant chain bookstore that's not actually into books, but just wants to sell like journals and pencils, and they're putting the actual bookstore out of business. And
she fucking blows it up.
She's like, down with Barnes and Noble, essentially.
It was beautiful.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it so much.
So we're back to Nick and Pat is pissed at Nick. He's like, you couldn't have grabbed my shopping bag with my record in it? What the fuck, bro?
You're really bad at saving people.
Uh-huh. And what's important to them? How could you? And Nick's like, I just saved you. Like, what do you... why are you
Pat's
mad
like,
at me?
Not good enough. I don't have all of my my possessions that I needed, that I had.
And you know what? That is such a mood.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That is such a mood. So Silver Paladin ends up fucking off. And just importantly to me, Nick does go home and jack off to fantasies of himself as the villain and Silver Paladin
Pat does.
as the hero. Did I say Nick does it? Pat does this.
Yeah, just to be sure. Just to be super clear for listener. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, because
and
to be clear, listener,
Mm-hmm.
Nick is the goodest good. Okay?
He's
like,
so good.
He is so lawful good.
He is binary, yes, lawful good.
What do you think Pat is? Pat's got to be chaotic
He's
neutral.
chaotic neutral. Yeah. I think on the spectrum of neutral, he's very close to good. But I feel like, he's had too many villain influences to...
Yeah. He just wants to be an urban planner, man.
He's very ends justify
He doesn't
want to
He doesn't want to go into the family business.
No. He doesn't. He's like, I want to spend more time with my family than my parents got to spend with me. That's the chief reason he doesn't want to be a supervillain one day. Mm-hmm. I just love him and his whole cinnamon roll heart.
Yes.
So the next day, Nick asks for the blonde one. The short blonde one will work. What?
No. So Pat gave an old phone number that he had that he got, he's quote unquote still had.
That's
so
right.
He does not know that Nick is asking around for the blonde one because he gets one of his other sisters, who's basically a hacker genius, to fix his phone number and all of that shit in exchange for a signed copy of a werewolf romance.
Uh-huh.
That Patrick is not. He just occasionally reads
He's
romances.
not a giant super fan. He just reads them sometimes and happens to have a signed copy is all.
Yep. That's it. But so he this is how his sister gets in on it. And his sister basically becomes his pimp.
Yeah. She becomes his office assistant. Thank you so much. So she fields all the calls. She makes sure everybody knows that he only works weeknights and not weekends and not during the day, because that's the only time he's actually on the premises of Nick's house as the night manager. And then she will essentially set up appointments, but she never really needs to because Nick only really requests him at night. Between 2 and 3 in the morning is usually when it happens. Oh my God. And so he sets it up and he's like, oh, he's been asking for me, specifically for me. Like, that means something.
The short blonde escort.
That's a really cool thing that's happening. Like, I'm into that. And so then the next time he goes up, it's after he gets rescued and he reads him the riot act about that CD. He's like, what the fuck, dude? And Nick is like, he's like a little kid. He's like a kicked puppy almost. He's like, I'm so sorry. And Pat is just like, look, it's fine. It's fine. I just need you to know that you can do better.
Also, super importantly to me.
Yes.
Nicholas, his favorite band is, I don't remember what it's called, but he has a favorite band.
Ghost Matter, I think.
Yeah, something like that. And Pat is giving him shit for it, but then finds out and realizes that Nick really loves this band and it's not ironic.
Yeah,
and he's like,
ironic.
I can't even make fun of him because he's so earnest.
Yes, absolutely. And then he asks him incredibly politely for a blowjob. It's like, will you please put your mouth on my penis, please?
Sorry, I have to go find this.
Yes, please.
Because so, listener, when I have quotes, the way it's like written down in my notes is quote about and then like a quick brief summary of what the quote is. And this says quote about Nicholas's creepy little face while asking for a blowjob. It came out flat, nearly without inflection. Nicholas's expression was seriously odd, and it took Pat a moment to realize that the dude's wide-eyed stare and prim little grin were his best attempt at an appealing smile. Abruptly, Pat realized he was trying hard to be polite about asking for a blowjob. It was kind of absurd, but weirdly endearing at the same time.
Very endearing.
Sure, Nicholas's stab at an apologetic smile looked more scary than anything, but Pat gave him full points for the ability to learn from his mistakes. He's just like, this is what I pictured, like,
it's more of like a wide-eyed grimace than anything else. So it's adorable. Oh my God. So he does. And he's never given a blowjob before because he doesn't have that much experience. And so he starts like, licking on him a little bit. He starts like, swirling his tongue around the whatever. He's got his hand on him. And Nick is like, can you do this? Like, really do this? And Pat looks up at him and he says something to the effect of, no, this is my way or the highway. Take it or leave it. And Nick is like, I guess I'm taking it. Okay. However you want to do this.
And then after Nick comes, Pat crawls up on top of him and he's like, it's my turn. And then he two-pump chumps into Nick's ass. And Nick
part of the scene. Wait, no. You have skimmed over this in a manner that does not befit
inappropriate.
Yes.
Is this a two-parter?
No, it's not a two-parter, but it is close. Listen, okay, so then he crawls up and he's like snurfling on his neck, and Nick is just like blissed out. He just came. He's snurfling on his neck. He does a cuddle up on his back, and then he's like, "It's my turn." That's like it's my turn. And Nick is like, what are you talking about? He's like, my turn to top. It's my turn to top. He says something like, I'll blow your mind or something. And so
he's so cocky about it. He's like, this is going to be the best sex you've ever had, buddy.
Don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of you. And so then Nick like rolls into position and he's like, all right, man, like
give it your best shot.
Give it your best shot, essentially. And then, once he opens him up and actually like inserts his penis, he's never penetrated anyone else before as well. And so he's just like, he does 2 pumps and a shudder. And that's it.
And then when he's done, Nicholas just looks over his shoulder at him like, what?
Like just mystified. And then Pat, in the most earnest way possible, he's just like, you are so hot. Oh, everything about you is so hot. And he's like snurfling up on his neck again. And Nick gets this like small smile on his face. Like, oh, okay. He's so
These
overcome.
2 hot dummies are so cute.
Meanwhile, can you imagine hiring a sex worker and then getting this?
And I love that Pat is still just being his hot mess self.
Oh, of course.
Even though he knows he's getting 3K. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't put on airs. He's like, this is what you're getting, buddy. Okay?
And I love that Nick is like, this makes him curious. He's like,
it's a mystery.
It is. It's a mystery. And also, like, they get off really well together and they're super attracted to each other. And I think also the fact that he's not Nick's, like, type on paper, as people say, is also confusing
part of the
to
appeal.
him. Yeah. So then, oh my God.
Then we zippy zap. It's like the next day or a couple of days later, and Patrick gets home from the library, and Nicholas is just skulking around his front door.
He's trying as hard as he can to like lean against the wall in a natural way that looks casual and totally fine. Like he can't do it.
And it's because he's here to give him his album.
He went to the police station and he got them to release his album out of evidence to Nicholas's custody because it wasn't important to the case and he could give it back to Pat. And Pat's immediately like, dude. Okay, also, listener, this whole time, Patrick has a very specific inner monologue voice, and then he is the broiest bro who's ever broed when he talks out loud. It's always dude, man, bro. And so he's like, dude, this is so cool. Like, you should come in and listen to it with me. And this is very confusing to Nick because normally he would be paying for any time they spend together, regardless of the activity. So he's like, okay, like he doesn't know how to navigate the situation when it's not explicitly a transaction. And that makes sense. That makes him a good person because he's respecting his assumed profession, you know? So then he goes in and and Patrick's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put it on the thing. And like, oh, like we're rocking out. But then he notices that Nick is like getting more and more uncomfortable. And finally he's like, dude, what's going on? Are you not having a good time? Like, what's happening? Because Nick says he's gonna go. And then he explains the fact that he doesn't know how to handle this because it's not specifically a transaction. And so Pat thinks for a minute and then he says, oh, dude, hold on. Goes over to his wallet.
I love your Pat impression, by the way. Please never stop. I need you. You know what? There's no audiobook for this. You can start from here.
Okay.
And just start narrating. Pull the book up, babe. Pull the book up.
So he walks over and he grabs a 20 out of his wallet and he hands it to Nicholas and he says, that should be enough for like a few hours of your time, right? And Nick is like, he like looks at it and he's very confused and then he gets this teeny tiny one corner of his mouth smile.
Nick's
and then
smiles
he nods.
Lights up my whole world. Okay? Nick with his one little lip quirk of a smile is what gets me up in the morning.
No, absolutely.
So now Patrick gives him a little makeover and puts a band t-shirt on him.
No, a flannel shirt because he doesn't want to make. Oh, really?
I thought that it was both, and so it's like an unbuttoned.
Oh, I thought he couldn't decide because he didn't want Nick to like compromise his band principles by by wearing a not Ghost Matter shirt.
So Patrick then takes Nicholas to a frat party.
Oh my God. And he finds out that Nick's never been to a frat party ever. And he's like,
what world, Pat? What world?
What would take him to a frat party? I wonder. Like, nothing. And so he's like, bro, you haven't been to a frat party? Oh my God. Well, we're going to give you the full experience. And they like make out against a wall. It's so cute.
What?
Yeah.
Thing.
Tell them
about point,
Nicholas
asks who Pat's favorite superhero is.
Who's your favorite
superhero? No, Pat.
Oh, Nick as Pat. Sorry.
And he says, "Who's your favorite superhero?" Wow. He was totally fishing for compliments. I was almost entirely certain that he shouldn't have found this as endearing as he did, but it wasn't like he could help it, with the man looking all self-conscious and shy and hopeful. Don't really have one. Nick deflated visibly, shoulders hunching slightly. Was that a kicked puppy look too? That was just unfair. Pat wasn't made of stone. Come on. Fine, you got me. Recently, I may have developed a certain fondness for that weirdo with no taste in music and all the force fields. You know, the loser who flies around in a silver bodysuit that shows off his ass. Yeah. It came out so softly, and Nick still looked so absurdly shy that Pat really had no choice but to grab him and pull him down for a kiss.
I can't with these two. They're so cute.
And then Pat turns it around and says, Nick, who's your favorite supervillain? And Nick's favorite supervillain is Serpentissima.
Is Pat's mom. And he says that like she was so cunning, and her ascension was like a coming of age thing for him, and it's so unintentionally sweet.
It's so fucking cute.
It's so cute.
So then they do a little dancey dance. They do a little makey-yatty. They get voyeured on by two random women in a library.
I did have a bing boom bong moment, and I don't know how much time you spent in frats in college. I didn't spend a ton of time in frats, but
I don't think of a frat house as a place where there's a library.
Yeah, that's my big thing. There's allegedly a library in this frat house. And it's like a big enough library that different people can fuck in different aisles of the stacks. What? Yeah. What is this, Beauty and the Beast? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I just whimsied that shit.
Yeah, we can, but I just had to note it for the record.
Yeah.
Listen, in a book full of superpowers and flying people.
What took me out of it was the frat library.
The library in the frat house is where I couldn't suspend my disbelief.
You draw the line. So then they continue, they're hot and heavy makeout, and then smack dab in the middle of it, Nick goes, man, you want to know it sounds really good? And Pat's like, yeah.
Is it
and Nick's like,
my hole you almost have your finger in? That would be.
Nick goes, pizza. And when Pat looks down, it's like it's like 2 o'clock on the dot.
And so, oh my God, then they're going to go to a pizza shop. And on the way, Nick is like musing about the toppings he's going to ask for. And so he's like, I think I'm going to go with some pheasant and a very specific type of mushroom that's only found in Russia, and quail eggs and like gorgonzola or something like that.
Yeah.
Pat is like, what are you talking about? Pizza places don't have toppings like that. And he's like, no, they absolutely do. So then they go into this place, and Nick is horrified with the lack of topping selection that this place has. He's about to read the person the riot act, and Pat has to like push him aside. And then afterwards, Pat, who has been marveling over the fact that he makes this gourmet pizza every night and then puts it into a cardboard takeout box and then sends it up, realizes that Nick has been thinking that he's ordering pizza like a regular person. He just thinks that like his AI found a better restaurant than this one.
And then it's kind of sad because we find out it's because his house managers, like, he's basically been babied his whole life. And he was, like, upset with the pizza that he got one time, but he wants takeout.
Mm-hmm. And so they just started stocking, like, generic takeout stuff.
Pretending.
Yeah. It's wild.
It broke, like, first world problems, bro, but, like, it broke my heart. Because Nick was distraught when he realized.
He's disenchanted. Like, he was, like a part, it's that moment when, like, the glass breaks and you can never unhear it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, what? No, that's not possible. I order takeout just like a regular person. Mm-hmm. And then Pat gets very specific about how that pizza is crafted by his gourmet chefs and then put together very specifically with, like, a grid pattern topping distribution instruction manual.
Yeah. Let me tell you, this book made me order a pizza on Tuesday, and mine did not look like that.
No. There were no quail eggs on the last pizza I had.
I did not even have the option.
Oh.
It was not
slackers.
Perfectly symmetrical. You know what, Domino's? How dare you?
How dare you? I will say that after making my own pizza dough semi-regularly, it's fucking hard to make a circle, you know?
As somebody who worked at a pizza place, I still can't make a circle.
Fuck that. That's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm just like, we're having a pizza log tonight.
Mm-hmm.
It has pizza on it. It's
good.
Pizza.
Fucking good.
Yeah. So then that bites him straight in the ass.
Well, so Patrick,
because they go back to the house.
Well, I was just gonna jump past that.
Oh, okay. It's very cute. They have, like, is this a date or is this not a date? Goodbye kind of situation. And now we're gonna move on.
So Patrick shows up to work the next night, and Nicholas ends up having to fly away to do some superhero stuff. But when he gets back, he calls for his favorite little companion, and then they end up playing video games together.
Yes.
And snuggling.
And then Patrick is like, AI, don't pay the vendor tonight.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the house.
Yeah.
And so they put it as, like, a promotional offer.
Mm-hmm. And it's just super duper cute.
It's very cute.
So importantly, he also gets a phone call. He's up for Minion training. That was Minion duty from his sister. That was the trade, is that she would get him the bank account in exchange for Minion duty, because nobody wants to do Minion duty.
Yeah. So now he's making the pizza of the night, dancing around, doing his jig, putting those quail eggs on there. And then he just hears from behind him, Patrick? And Nick is there. Because, of course, he wants to investigate how his pizzas are actually getting to him now that the bubble has been burst. And Patrick turns around and he's just like, he says he doesn't know what to do and he's a terrible liar. And so he just blurts the truth and he says, I'm the night manager.
Caught red-handed.
And then he just babbles the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And then Nick just leaves.
He doesn't say a word.
He just turns
listener.
around.
He just leaves.
And then Patrick calls the night manager, the house manager, to come take over and says that he's not feeling well. And then he leaves.
He thinks he's fired. He spends a month doing other shit.
Yes.
Like, working on his urban planning classes and stuff, trying to keep his mind off of the love of his life, really. He doesn't know that, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets a call from this manager like a month later being like, hey, we need you to come in because we're overhauling the AI and we need you to do X, Y, and Z. And so he's like, what? And she's like, yeah, it's really great that you've had like a month off, but it's time to come back and do your job. And he's like, well, I didn't even think that was an option. So then he gets called up for Minion duty. And he's going to be working for Sir Toby of Tobytown.
Yep.
And he was Serpentissima's mentor. And he's like a dapper gentleman. I'm sure he smokes a pipe.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely drinks bourbon.
Yes. He's always wearing a 3-piece suit. And he wants to mind control everyone specifically so he can improve the city's functioning and like get rid of the corruption and fix all the shit that's wrong and like redo the streets maybe. and make the city better for everyone. That's why he wants to mind control everybody.
Yeah. So it all goes to shit as we expected to. But the reason it goes to shit is because a different supervillain named Bitterfly flies. Shut up.
I know.
That was the cutest thing.
That was the cutest.
So Bitterfly flies in and she's like, get fucked. I'm taking the thing that's powering this mind control ray.
Yeah.
And it's coming with me. And so she like freezes everybody.
Except for Pat, because Pat runs out of the way. But then he tries to get it back from her, and she like elbows him in the face and then flies off.
And Sir Toby's like, you can't let her do that because it needs to be used a specific way. Otherwise, it's going to like suck her brains out and kill her. And you have to save her. Her eyes will start
melting out of her face if she uses it without a containment vessel.
And so on his way out, guess who he runs into?
Well, who else is he going to run into?
Silver Paladin.
And he's like, hey, I know we've got our issues, but like, I need your help. We have to go after Bitterfly because she got this thing and it's bad and it'll kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And so Silver Paladin is very confused about this because on the one hand, he knows that he now found out that his paramour is an evil minion. He's a minion to a supervillain. And like, that cannot stand. But at the same time, the evil minion is trying to stop a different supervillain for like really altruistic reasons. And he's like, I guess if I'm stopping a supervillain, that's really that's my job, you know? So like, sure, man. Throws him over his shoulder fireman carry style and then zooms off to go get her. They figure out that she's staying in this like historic, beautiful hotel.
It's like 100 years old. There's so much history here.
It's basically like this Art Deco masterpiece.
And Nicholas is about to fly up and just punch through the wall to get inside. And Pat is like, absolutely not.
I will rescue you.
Like, you heroes and villains, you hoagies and challengers and just blowing up cities and
and you don't care about all the destruction you create and all the history you destroy and blah blah blah. And so the next paragraph is like, so now everybody was scrambling to get Nicholas a key to the penthouse because they couldn't wait to help out the illustrious hero.
And then Pat runs straight upstairs though, and he's like, Bitterfly, you can't do it. He's trying to explain it to her, and she's like, no.
Go kick rocks. This is a trick.
So then Nick gets up there, dink, beep, beep, and the door opens. Bitterfly and Nick are now in a shoot 'em out fight.
They're brawling.
Like full on.
Fisticuffs
and Pat's like,
brawling.
I gotta find this thing. And then he finally finds it. And it is on Bitterfly's belt.
Yep.
And
he goes to grab it at the same time that Silver Paladin is shooting a laser of some sort of stun laser. And it activates the crystal. And then the crystal like shoots power up his arm. And it's semi-sentient, and so it's being like, ooh, we could use the power, and you can plan all the cities even better, and you make everybody,
and the reason
so
it
much
doesn't
more
work,
functional.
The reason it doesn't work on Pat is because he's like, this is so lame.
That's so lame. Like, who would fall for that? That's such an obvious ploy.
And so he ends up coming out of it, and Nick puts it in some fancy box.
And Nick is like, how? How did you not fall to the temptation of the evil? And he's like, what, are you joking? Like, ugh, it's so lame. And so Nick is extra confused now. Like, he doesn't know what to do with himself.
And Pat can hear Bitterfly crying from the other room. And he goes to check on her. And he's immediately pissed because Nicholas
can't.
handcuffed her to the bed, and he walks back out and he's like, Nick, what the fuck? You can't just handcuff a woman to a bed who doesn't want to be handcuffed to a bed.
And Nick is like, it's a restraint. And he's like, there is semantics. Like, there is some very important context here that you ignored. So then he goes over and he's trying to comfort her, and he's like, Bitterfly, like, it's going to be okay. And she goes, it's not Bitterfly. I want it to be Butterfly.
By the way, just because I happened to skim past this when I was going through the quote. When he's giving Nick hell, specifically, he goes, bad hoagie.
Yes.
Like, bad dog.
He's snoot booped him.
Snoot booped.
Yeah. And so then we find out that she's only Bitterfly because some journalist did a misspelling, and she now lives with that. And up until this point, he has been like ridiculing her in his mind as like one of the lamest of the villains.
Uh-huh.
And oh my God, it's just, and so by the end of this thing, because her whole thing is she's like Miss Fashion. And so she's like, I just want everything to be beautiful. And why don't they want it to be beautiful? Why does everyone want everything to stay ugly? I just want to help and beautify the world.
The reasons that these villains have are the best thing that's ever happened to me.
So good. I can't wait to find out his mom's reasoning. Anyway, so then he is like agreeing with her and he's being like, yeah, it's not only not beautiful, but also it could function so much better if we planned it with blah, 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 blah. And then at the end of this conversation, Butterfly is like, do you want to be my right hand? Do you want to be my trusted lieutenant? And he's like very much not wanting to be in the villain biz at all. And so he tries to let her down easy. And he's like, plus I'm still minioning for Sir Toby, and you wouldn't want me to abandon him, would you? Like, that wouldn't make me a good minion. And she's like, we will resume this conversation when he's done with his attempt at world domination. And then he walks out, and Nick is just standing there trying to pretend like he wasn't listening to the whole thing. Because again, this is so weird to him. He's very black and white about villains being bad and doing things for selfish reasons and la la la. And so not only is he seeing the behind the scenes of both Butterfly and Pat, but he's also encountering a person who like cannot be tempted by the trappings of villainry. And that's just absurd to him almost. What were you going to say?
I just keep going. There's
okay.
It's taking everything in me not to stop for like every little thing.
Every quote, every single quote.
I know. Especially because like the quotes are because they're all so good. Like I was just like,
you can't choose one paragraph. It's got to be two most of the time.
It's like 3 of them. Yeah. Like this one where he's talking about how fond Pat is, about how non-scary and non-amoral Nick is, and how Pat's kind of fond of him. And that was the entire problem when you thought about it. Oh, well, he'd get over it. He didn't want to, but he would. Not wanting to get over it was probably just another symptom. And then Pat would no longer have to feel the weird wrenching fondness that tugged at him when Nick frowned forebodingly as he listened to Nexus, looking both heroically square-jawed and childishly mulish at the same time. And Pat wouldn't think that Nick looked remarkably fuckable for someone so wrapped up in a quantum costume, force fields, and righteousness. And Pat wouldn't have so much trouble remembering that Nick wasn't just, or perhaps even primarily, Nicholas Anderson, grumpy sweet dork and socially challenged geek. He was also Silver Paladin, one of the foremost superheroes of his time, which was, of course, in itself the best reason why Pat should never have jumped into bed with him in the first place, let alone, well, done anything to compound the initial error. But yesterday's sun couldn't hatch today's snakelets, so yeah, getting over it. That was the plan. Y'all, when we say that the voice in this book is so unique, it's so good.
It's wild.
Because he rambles in his brain, but it's not annoying.
No, it is so clever and charming and delicious.
So Pat and Nick go their separate ways again.
But then he's meant to go and do his voice AI thing, and he decides that he's going to resign from his post at that time. So he walks in with a chocolate cake, and he's like, I cannot do this anymore. Thank you so much for all of your training and your wisdom, but I have to go to like the
I don't have a
house
serving
manager.
heart.
Yeah. And then as he's walking out, the AI is like, Mr. Anderson is welcoming you to join him in his private laboratory. He's like, okay. And so he goes up and tell them what Nick is like,
Honestly, just have a little, I didn't actually take a bunch of highlights from this one because I just couldn't stop reading, right?
Yeah.
But like
yeah.
Pat and Nate made Nick a cake and they have a little conversation about how supervillains aren't really that evil. It's just kind of, a step in the door to like make things better for whatever way that they think that it would be better. And then he convinces Nick to cut a slice of cake. But before he can eat it, they're having another conversation and Pat's apologizing for everything that happened. And then Nicholas says he's not sorry about finding out the truth because it's always better to know the truth, Patrick. Always. Even if it hurts. No, especially then. Especially when the lie is pretty and easy and comfortable. And then they go their separate ways again, and Patrick cries in the elevator on the way down.
Of course. And I loved this scene because it starts in the way that a lot of their scenes start together, with Nick either asking a very abrupt question or just making a very abrupt statement. And so Patrick walks into the room and Nicholas just says, "You're not evil." And he's like, "No, I'm not." And so it's so clear that Nicholas is still trying to figure out this puzzle of a human.
Yes.
And during the scene, he asks him why he quit. And Pat, verbal diarrhea, is like, "Well, I think I would be reminded of you all the time. And I'd be wondering if you were thinking about me. And like, it's really uncomfortable. And so I just thought it's best."
It's just not healthy.
It's just not healthy. And then all Nicholas says is like something like "noted" or "okay,
like, understood."
Understood. So now he's throwing himself into school and minioning.
Well, wait a fucking minute.
What?
Pat gets a job at a 24-hour coffee shop overnight.
Yeah.
Okay. And Nick starts coming into that coffee shop
at between 2 and 3
in the morning every morning. And he doesn't look at Patrick, but he just looks at his tablet. But he comes in every morning and he does the thing. And Nick tells
after
Patrick.
About a week, Pat's like, "Are you stalking me?" And Nick just says, "Yes."
Yes.
And then he goes and sits down at his table.
and Patrick has, like, so Nick always orders a black coffee, and Patrick refuses to make him just a black coffee.
Because the coffee there is terrible.
Yeah.
He's like, "Wait, I cannot do that to any person."
But also, like, Nick keeps telling Pat, he's like, "Your coffee sucks." And then Pat's like, "You're welcome." And then he takes the coffee and he drinks it anyway.
Yeah, but he keeps on making him like more and more elaborate drinks.
Yeah, with like fruity frou-frou flavors and foam. And
by their last encounter, he's trying to make the most symmetrical caramel lattice on top of the foam as he possibly can. It is so much.
So then he tries to invite Nick to another party, and Nicholas is like, "No, but ask me next time."
Yeah, he says specifically, "not yet."
So Pat waits, and then Nicholas doesn't come back for 4 days.
What even is he?
And when he gets there, he's like, "I'm not going to go to the party with you." And Pat's like, "You didn't even let me ask."
He says, "I'm not going to any party with you ever." Basically, like, that's what he says.
Yeah.
"I'm not going to any parties with you."
But instead of asking me to the party, you should ask me to go to the storeroom.
Oh, the way that my mouth dropped open when I read that line
was giddy. And then, of course, Pat's best wingman buddy, Cat, is like, "Go do inventory, dude. Go.
I have a sudden need for inventory. Goodbye."
And then, hang on.
Oh my God. He pushes him very gently up against the bookcase. Go ahead, yeah.
As soon as the door had fallen shut, Nick turned and grabbed Pat, pushing him against the nearest set of shelves. Pat gave a low gasp as Nick leaned into him, bracing his arms against the shelf on either side of Pat's shoulders to fence him in. Long moments passed in silence as Nick's eyes roamed over Pat's face, evidently... Why did I say it like that? Evidently cataloging every feature. He was frowning slightly, and Pat didn't dare to do any of the things he would have liked to do. He still didn't know what was going on, and maybe Nick wouldn't be okay with being kissed or pulled in closer, or Nick's brow smoothed in the same instant the steel went out of his posture. He sagged forward slowly, bowing his head until his face was buried against Pat's throat, nose nuzzling against his jaw. It was weird as fuck. It was damn uncomfortable, too, what with the shelves behind Pat digging painfully into his shoulders. Not to mention they were surrounded by sacks of coffee beans, plastic vats of syrup, and stacked boxes of takeaway cups and straws. And Pat was looking straight at the disturbing poster of dancing coffee beans on the wall behind Nick. Every one of the beans was watching him with beady red eyes and a wide rictus-like grin filled with tiny teeth. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Pat never wanted to move. I miss you. The words were muffled against Pat's neck. The feeling of Nick's breath hot against sensitive skin made him shiver. I should put you out of my mind and move on. But I miss you.
I miss you. He's so conflicted, Sabrina. He's so conflicted.
Well, then Pat makes a dumb fucking comment to Nick about his cookie cutter companions. And Nick tells him.
No, he says, oh, are the underwear models not doing it for you? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I haven't seen anybody because it wouldn't feel right.
And then they have a cute little makeout. And then Nick leaves.
A gentle one.
Nick just fucks off, and then he texts Pat and is like, well, you should come on a date with me Saturday, 6.
And he has to put me, parentheses, Nicholas, because they've never texted before and they don't have each other's numbers.
Which begs the question, how did you get his number?
He's a billionaire. He's a billionaire tech genius. Iron Man can get anybody's number.
Okay. So, yeah, they have a date, and we zoom straight over. And Nicholas takes Pat in a full tux.
Full tux. And Pat says, like, I don't know what to wear via text. And he says, anything you wear will be perfect. Then he shows up in a limousine in a full tux and takes him to the opera first.
And Pat loves
it.
The opera. He thought it was amazing. And then he's like waxing poetic about the villain.
He specifically loves the witch queen who should obviously run things.
And he talks shit about the hero, and Nick starts getting really fussy, and he's like, wait, you don't identify as the hero. He's so stupid and lame. You're not lame at all. You're amazing.
I loved that part because Nick is obviously thinking, like, he doesn't respect anything about me or what I believe in or what I want. And he's like, no, it's not specifically that he's, like, quote unquote good. It's that he doesn't think about anything critically and he doesn't think about anybody but himself. And he's not open-minded at all. And you are all of those things.
And then Nick takes him to a fancy restaurant and while they're eating.
Specifically, he does not.
Oh, you're right.
So here's what happens. First of all, there's a lady who comes over and doesn't, like, even deign to recognize Pat's existence. And Nick is obviously very uncomfortable. And so Pat just, like, gives him some space. And then as Nick comes over, he, like, ends up very surreptitiously holding hands with Pat. And Pat's got this, like, Cheshire cat smile on his face. And then as, like, the opera, you know, it does a normal hero's journey trajectory. And Nick is like, so the witch queen got defeated and it was bullshit. And, you know, I'm, like, a little bit mad about how the opera ended. And then Nick, sort of apropos of nothing, looks over and he's like, I have a reservation at a really, really, really fancy restaurant that's, like, on top of a building and it has views of the whole city. And Pat is like, okay. And then Nick says, but I don't understand. I don't know how to do this. I don't know why I'm trying to impress you like this because I take you to the opera and you're not impressed by the box. You're impressed by, like, the talent of the people. And I know that you don't care about things like a fancy restaurant. And, you know, like the lady who approached me would like something like that, but I don't want to date her. I like dating you. And so I guess my question is, how do you feel about a falafel? And Pat says, I know just the place. and takes him to a street vendor.
Across the street from his house, specifically.
Yeah. And Nick has never had anything from a street vendor. And Pat is like, he's patting himself on the back, being like, I am so slick. Took him to this street vendor on a cold night right across the street from my house, because then I can be like, oh, would you like to warm up and eat in a nice place that is my house?
I love how genuine Pat is.
Self-congratulatory. Genuinely self-congratulatory.
Like, he talks about how Nick is earnest. Pat is equally earnest, just in the very opposite direction.
It's so cute.
So then they go up and have the most sweet romantic moment where they're talking about all the things that they know about each other and the kitchenette. And like
the amount of highlights I have from this scene is ungodly.
I didn't highlight a single thing because I couldn't pick.
Yeah, you couldn't pick.
I had a decision paralysis. Like, what is it called? Analysis paralysis. And I couldn't decide which one I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
no,
God.
but essentially they're trying to make up, and Nick says to Pat, I need to get to know you from scratch because I don't know anything about you. And Pat gets really pissed off about that. And he's like, fuck you. That's not true. I didn't put on any airs. I wasn't anybody but myself the whole time. You might have thought I had a different job, but like I was always Pat. You know so much about me. And then Nick is like, but you understand that meeting you in that context and then finding out I have to lift that, sort of veneer off of it, that changes things for me. And Pat's like, yeah, sure, but you still know me. And he gets mad and he's about to leave. And then he grabs him and he's like, Patrick West. And then he starts telling him all the wonderful and like also slightly annoying things that are still really endearing and all the things about him. And then my favorite part is that after this whole monologue, Patrick looks down at the ground and he says, I knew you were paying attention. And then he tells Nick all the things about him, and it ends in sweet. And Nick says, sweet? Nobody's ever called me sweet before. And he's like, yeah, bro, you're totally sweet. Literally. Like, that's what he says. Yeah, bro, you're totally sweet.
You fucking bro. And then Pat is like, oh, God, I need to tell him about my family and be honest. And so he goes to say it. And then Nick's like, no, don't do that. We need to come together and heal before any big confessions and
any big disclosures. And I loved this because both of them were coming at it in like, this is what's best for the relationship kind of thing. So in this way, Pat has tried to lay everything out on the table, and Nick knows that there is still something huge that he needs to find out, but they're still able to reconnect sexily.
Boy, because they do end up making out on that couch.
Wow. And then they break the whole couch.
They not only
with
the
sex.
couch, they kick over the table with a blowjob and just like, oh my God, they break everything. And then, wait, hang on.
Is it Patrick's babbling while he's inside Nick?
So
he's babbling while he
says,
penetrates
I will
Nick.
so have sex with you, like so much. You have no idea. You'd better. It sounded like a threat, and even that was insanely hot. Just like the way Nick settled his shoulders deeper into the cushions. Like he's like, yeah, I'll totally have sex with you, bro.
Bro, I'll have so much sex with you. You have no idea.
Oh my
And then
God.
afterwards, and he's saying things like, you're such a dork and you're so geeky and it feels so good to be inside you. He's just babbling adorable things. And then they break that couch all over the place, and then they spend the night.
The best part is that they break it mid-fuck. This is not at the end of sex. They break mid-fuck, and then they pause, look at the carnage, and go, meh, and just go right back at it. And I was like champions.
That's right.
I fucking love you both.
That's right.
And then he stays over, and he's like, I'll cook the best eggs you've ever had, rich boy.
Yeah.
And it was cute. and adorable.
It's so cute. So now they're together, but also it's like go time for Patrick's minioning because they've gotten a new power source.
Yeah. Well, before even that happens,
yeah, the dad. And
it's
the
time for
dinner.
family dinner because the dad is home. And they're
Mhm.
waiting, like, mom's not home yet. She has to get shipped back on a literal boat because she's ginormous. But he accidentally drops the boyfriend bomb in front of his family. And now all of them are like, we have to meet him.
No, the dad says we have to meet them because it's obvious that every single sister already knows who it is, which is nuts to Pat.
Yeah.
He's like, holy shit, my sisters know I'm dating a hoagie. And like they're giving him a little bit of shit about it, but they're not outing him to his dad.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So you're right. We're back to minioning. We get to meet one of my favorite characters in any book I've ever fucking read. And his name is Star Knight.
He's a mess.
He is sneeze and a building's coming down. He's a hoagie.
God.
He is like Superman if Superman was the fucking
A bull in a china
dumbest
shop
thing that's ever existed.
Yeah.
So he's straight up like the mind control ray is working. It's been a couple of days or something.
It's been like a
And,
week. It's amazing.
And like it's all working perfectly.
And
then
they're rebuilding shit. They're making sure that all the corruption is gone in the
And then
offices.
Star Knight comes blasting through the ceiling and lands directly on top of the mind control ray. And then he kicks it and punches it and smushes it into a tiny little metal pancake and then
he
curls
stands
up
on
on top of it
Oh.
and goes to sleep. Because to get his star power back, he has to take a little nappy nap.
It's so funny. So he's now comatose on top of this puddle.
And he can't be moved. That's
of
the best
mind right-
part.
No.
He can't be moved.
He's like 3 tons. He's so heavy. And so they color all over him and like
They take his
group
cape.
pics. They take his cape. Oh my God. They color all over him and they take pics that go viral and it's a whole thing. And then
Because social media is super important for villains and hoagies.
Huge. And so then it's go time because Sir Toby knows that this is when, now that everybody's obviously no longer mind controlled, this is when he has to make his final stand. And so he delegates all his minions to do different things. And Pat's job is to take care of the secret lair. But the secret lair is just a regular office building because who can be bothered to go to like a warehouse underground or whatever?
Well, no, that's the thing that Pat makes a big
He's
deal
so
about is
happy
that Sir
about it.
Toby is like so with the times.
He's pragmatic.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Love it.
So he gets a call from one of the other minions and they're like, a hoagie is on the way. And guess who is on the way? It's not Nexus, I'll tell you that much. So he goes into the private office to start deleting all the files. But like in Sir Toby's office, all the files are just like some speeches.
Cookie
and, like a bunch
recipes?
of cookie recipes and a bunch of cocktail recipes. And it's so cute.
Sir Toby's the best. He's classy.
He's the best.
Okay.
I love him. So then Silver Paladin he slams open the door. Kabam! Only a superhero could do it like that. And then he looms up behind Pat and he's like,
Oh my God.
what do you think you're doing?
I'm about to start sweating.
I know.
What? Like the minute he walked into that office, I was like, is this about to be every superhero fantasy I've ever had come true?
Yeah, the answer is yes. This is every sex scene that I've wanted in a superhero
In every
or even a
superhero movie.
or even a sci-fi romance. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
It's really good. So he comes up behind him and he's like, what do you think you're doing? And Pat's like, I'm just deleting all these files, so that it doesn't land in the hands of the enemy. Silver Paladin goes, is that who I am? Am I the enemy? And he's like, well, we don't have to like make it a big deal or whatever. It doesn't have to be like a real thing, but like, stylistically, yeah, enemy.
Yeah. You're the hoagie with more money than sense, and I'm just the
Yes.
part-time minion. That's not who we are. It's just what we do. We don't have to let it be this huge thing. there's
And
no
Pat-
meaningful difference between who we are and what we do. And then he like crowds him against the table. And oh my God, they're about to have sex on Sir Toby's table. And dude, Pat sounded every bit as breathless as he felt. It might have been embarrassing, except come on, he was only human. Nobody who had silver paladins standing between their legs, all burning stare and straining cock, could be expected to remain unimpressed.
No, absolutely not.
And then
he starts using his
the
force field
sexiest
powers.
force fields.
So he like lays him down on the desk with force fields, and then he lifts up his hips. Sorry. He takes off his pants and underwear and socks only with force fields. Does not touch him. He's got one hand on his hip right now and the other hand on his own cock. Stripping him down with his force fields. And then he lays him down.
Naked. He says, "There's no use fighting it." Nick's voice was lower than Pat had ever heard it. A dark echo of the hero voice laden with sex and something harder, more dangerous. "I've caught you, evil minion, and you aren't getting away. You are entirely at my mercy."
I cannot. And then Pat is laying there being like, "What? Wait. Because Pat's being like, I don't understand what's happening. Oh, wait, are we role-playing? Okay, yeah. You're bluffing."
And "I am righteous," Nick growled. "Yes, I am righteous, but I am also a man, and you have pushed me too far. You must be taught a lesson, villain, and I will be the one to deliver it, and there's nothing you can do to stop me." And then he says, "How does it feel knowing that you're mine to do whatever I please with? How does it feel knowing that I'm going to take you every way I want, sate myself on your body, open you up and fuck you until you beg? Oh, hell yeah. I mean,
no.
You can't do that. You better not, okay? If you do, I'll tell everyone. I'll tell them all." "You'll tell them what?"
Oh my God. And it's so great because then he uses the force fields to like put fingers down his body, and he like tweaks a nipple with them. And then he starts opening up his dark passage.
Oh, Melody.
I read that the other day. I know. He starts like opening up his ass with his force fields. And then as he's like squaring up, Pat is laying there being like, "Oh, I think we're still role-playing." But then he realizes that Nick is standing there waiting for like his affirmative consent before he does anything else. And so Pat like nods frantically, and then Nick enters him. And then
That's the only way to describe it.
Yeah. So he enters him, and then he like lays down on top of him. Doesn't he say some really sweet things nuzzling into his neck now?
"I love being inside you," Nick whispered against Pat's lips. "Every time I see you, I want to tear off your clothes and bury my cock in you."
Yeah.
Pat suspected it was a terrible line, especially given Nick's track record when it came to dirty talk. Right now, though, when he was trembling apart on Nick's cock, his entire body thrilling to Nick's touch, right now, it really worked. And Nick's just like snuzzling into him, and he's like, "I just love being inside you, and I want to be with this is amazing.
I want to be in you and with you and just all the time." And then he goes from 0 to 200 because there's just he can't hold back anymore. And then he realizes at the end that he also used his force fields as a condom.
That's the sexiest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I know.
And then it's kind of sad because Nick does have a moment, though, afterwards where he legitimately is like, "Oh my God, I wonder if Patrick did that on purpose so that they could actually destroy everything."
I was so scared because when I was looking at the screen, I was like, that was the last line. And then it was a page turn before I could figure out how
but then
he
luckily
felt.
he realizes that he started it. This was all his fault. He was like, "Fuck it."
So he has this moment because Pat says something like, "Are you sure this isn't my plan to like distract you so that we can do evil stuff elsewhere?" And he has this moment of like, "Oh shit." And then the next page when I went over it was like,
Mhm.
Nick grinned. Nick grinned. He knew that that's not what happened.
All right.
Okay,
So,
now
we're at the point where
Melody's
do you
done
have
now.
any more?
all I know is that his mom shows up and coils around him.
So his mom is home.
Mhm.
His mom literally attacks him in his hallway
Yeah.
into his home and like curls up around him and is
Yeah.
like snuggling.
She's like, oh, my baby, like you've grown so much and you're so different and blah, blah, blah. And he's
Mhm.
like, I mean, she's the one who's like doubled in size and stuff.
Mhm.
She's the one who's
How
a
did she get
snake
up the
lady now.
hallway? You know, like
Okay, do we ever get a better description of her actual physical form?
she is Naga.
Okay, so
Like,
she's a snake lady
She's
with
got
arms.
arms. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Got it.
Oh, but also most importantly, Nick bought him a replacement couch,
Gah. Yeah. Yeah, it's so cute.
which is adorable. But his mom, with her little sneaky nose, can smell.
Mm.
And she's
Yeah.
snuffling around that apartment. And she can tell that he has a new beau. And he's like, well, he's like super busy. I don't know when
Yeah,
you'll be able
there's
to
no way.
meet him. There's that's not how that works. And she's like, if he has time for you, he has time for your family. Besides,
Uh-huh.
do you think that world domination will leave me a lot of leisure in which to question and test your partner? A quick meeting here and there will suffice. One will have to take place before we begin to put my plans in motion, of course. He must be made aware of the consequences should he fail to make you happy. And Pat's just like, Mom, God, why? So now she's sniffing on the air, right? She's got that scent in her little snaky nostrils.
Yeah.
And then we go into a scene where it sounds like Pat is confessing everything to Nick. And it's like, oh my fucking God, what the shit, Pat? Like everything about his mom and his thing and all the, and it's while Nick's just casually cooking dinner.
Is it a
And then we
dream
find
or
that-
is he practicing?
He's just staring. He's just staring at Nick's ass while he's cooking and thinking in his head, I really need to tell Nick about this. But he doesn't. And then all of a sudden Nick is like, he's going to be busy because Serpentissima's arriving. And so like, I'm going to have to deal with that. And Pat still hasn't said anything. He's still keeping it to
Pat.
himself.
He tried and then he lost his gumption.
Yeah, and so Pat's now trying to get Nick to come meet his family because his family's like, we need to meet. Like, he's trying to get it out. He's trying to get it out. And he's like, maybe it'll just be easier if they just meet.
Oh,
But,
no.
like-
That's a hard no, Pat.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then Nick is clearly nervous about meeting Pat's parents. Like, he keeps fucking up. Like I said, I don't know if you caught this. He's cooking. He has AI in the background describing what to do in order and like use this much butter, use this much oil, leave it there for this long. And it's like super cute. And now he's fucking it up because he's worried about meeting Nick's family. And now, knock. His sisters are at the door.
Sure.
And Nick straight up goes out the window and is like, I'll see you later, dude. Enjoy breakfast. Like, enjoy food. Gotta go. And so he just fucks off. And then his sisters come in. Then we zippy zap. And his mom has picked like some ancient church to set everything up at. And her big plan is that they're at this ancient church and she has this stuff called Hero's Bane. And so all of the heroes, when they come to attack her, she's going to cover them in Hero's Bane. They're going to be frozen. And then she's going to put them into alcoves. And then it's just going to create a beautiful aesthetic for as all of these heroes are attempting to come get her, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they get some
That's
tours.
going to really mess things up for Pat. It's going to be tough to date a frozen hero.
It is. Unsurprisingly, things don't exactly go according to plan.
Oh, I was, don't you know?
So
you don't say.
And so like the whole time, like Pat's like super conflicted because he wants his mom to succeed because that's his mom, but also like He wants his boyfriend to be able to just fly around and be the good guy that he is.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what to do here. But he's like, fine, whatever. We're just going to let things come as they happen. And which, Pat, this is a moment where you really don't need to be going with the flow. You know, my man?
Can't do
like,
that. Can't
that's
do
not
it.
how this should be handled, right?
Mm-mm.
Well, so as you mentioned earlier, Pat is in charge of the serpent sluts. And it is exactly as you described earlier. They
I'm
have
obsessed.
pillows at the
Yes.
base of the throne. They're all in sexy,
Skimpy,
right?
skimpy
It's like
outfits.
leather pants and just body
Oiled
oil
up.
everywhere. And it's super cute because when his mom sees him, she's like, Pat, you can't be the head serpent slut. That's your father's role. And his father comes walking out and he's like, hun, and he's in the outfit, but he's, a pudgy accountant dad. And so she's like, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, but you're my head serpent slut. And he's like, but honey, it's time. It's
time to pass the baton.
Yeah, I'll be in the background helping make sure that everything goes smoothly. And it is watching his mom and his dad interact is the greatest thing ever.
Well, and just when they had family dinner, I really, really loved it because the dad was like, all right, 3 sisters, all 3 of you are going to be your mom's lieutenant. You're going to be all her right hand.
Yes.
And then he looks at Pat and he's like, and Pat, we are going to do the incredibly important duty of taking care of the aesthetics to make sure that people get the right vibe when they enter the throne room. And Pat's like, I know, I'm a serpent slut. I'm totally into it. I don't want any other responsibility. Thank you so much.
I'm just so down. So the first person who shows up is my best friend in the whole world, Star Knight.
Yeah.
And he rolls in, and before he can even start his hero, like, we're gonna save the world speech, he recognizes Pat, and he's like, you stole my cape, and you drew all over my face. And so he grabs onto Pat, and his mom loses her shit.
Yeah.
And then immediately hero baned. Star Knight is out of the game.
Yeah,
Except
gotta
the
go.
problem is Nick's hand, the back of his hand is stuck to the hero's bane. So he can't get away from Star Knight. So they end up moving Star Knight into an alcove. And Pat's just getting dragged along by the back of his hand. And then his dad pops up with like a gallon of oil and he's like, here, use this, try and get out. Like, here you go. So like Pat's like desperately trying to get out. And then Nexus and Ariadne show up.
Okay.
And
it's their turn.
We haven't talked about Nexus, listener. Nexus is a hoagie, but she is a loose cannon.
She's a lunatic.
She's terrifying.
Yeah.
And so they start to fight. Boom. And Nexus goes after the Snakey, and Serpentissima makes like a fog of black shadow that nobody can see through, but you can hear the fighting. Oh, by the way, they also have the super convenient thing where they can just mute sound in the hall.
Oh.
So that they don't hurt their ears during the loud parts.
In the church, they can mute it? Why? How?
Great question. So moving on. So Ariadne is coming and like she's trying to get Nick, and Nick is just tugging.
Why though?
He's running around in circles around and spinning Star Knight trying to get away from her. And he's like, I'm not the king of tag in my family for no reason. And she's like, because so he keeps like switching direction.
Yeah.
And he's like, God, my hand hurts so bad.
I would think so.
Yeah. So she's like fussing him. There's a bunch of fighting. And then the sluts decide to save their snaky friends. And so they're all ganging up, trying to go save the snakes because Nick finally gets away, right?
Wait, snakes plural. What are you talking about?
I forgot to tell you this. The serpent sluts have little snakes with them.
Oh, like his
Wrapped
pet
around
snake at
them?
dinner. Yeah, yeah.
All of them have little pet snakes, and the little pet snakes are hiding because
Yeah.
they're afraid.
Of
And
course.
and at this point, I think, Ariad, I didn't take great notes during this because there was so much happening.
It's an action scene.
But Patrick gets out of the hero's bane somehow. Luckily, his skin is still attached. And he's like,
Thank goodness.
all right, serpent sluts, we have to go save those little baby snakes. And so you take this stair and you take this stair. And so they all go running in their sexy oiled glory to save all of these little snakes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And Patrick's really just stepping up and taking charge. And it's amazing. And now Ariadne and Nexus are both successfully locked up in the hero's bane.
Good.
But then Silver Paladin and Captain Cool show up.
And does she slither smell him?
Immediately, Serpentissima recognizes Nick's scent.
Yeah.
And she's like, what the fuck?
Are you dating my son?
She and he start going at it, but they're not using their most powerful weapons, notably,
because
they're not trying to hurt each other.
Pat loves.
And like they're doing all of this, they're fighting, and then Captain Cool is being a real dick about it. He's like, I don't want to be in the middle of this. It seems like a personal thing. So I'm just gonna like sit over here, but he keeps making like shitty, snarky comments. And so Patrick's like, sluts, get him! And so all the serpent sluts
go after Captain Cool.
And he's like disappeared underneath a mound of sexy oiled men. And you can like vaguely hear him being like, no, what are you doing? Like, get off of me! And like, Captain Cool doesn't matter now, right?
God.
By the way, the whole time this is happening, Patrick is just watching Nick fly around, and he's like, God, he's just, look how beautiful he is and wonderful. Look at that butt, though.
Look at his noble ass.
And his cool force fields and, like, that sexy mouth and, like...
He just does that brain stuff so good.
Just such a good brain stuff. And then it ends up being... They stop fighting. And Serpentissima looks Nick dead in the face and is like, how would you like to have a job? So Serpentissima offers Nick the most straight-laced hero of them all a job. And he's like, no, thank you.
I'd like to respectfully decline.
What if instead I help you into the hero corps? We'll reform, like we can reform you and you can come be a part of the hero corps. And meanwhile, Patrick is just watching like, what the actual fuck is happening?
Absolutely.
Like, what? So then his
Who
mom
are these people?
grabs Patrick and pulls him into a corner and puts up like a little snaky power thing where she can talk to and so she's talking to him one-on-one, and she's like, oh, I'm so proud of you for wooing the Silver Paladin slowly over to our side with your sexy wiles, and like you could get some suggestions from the rest of the sluts on how to like do it better. And like she's basically like, I'm so proud of you for sneaking in and getting in with the Silver Paladin so that you can like peel him away from the heroes and turn him into a villain.
Him.
Just
Yeah.
And then she finishes it up, and he's just like, Mom, that's super not what's happening. And she's
I'm
like,
not doing that. Interesting. Moving on. And then she goes back and she tells Nick, she looks him dead in his beautiful mirrored visor face and says that she's abandoning her bid for power because walking over the corpse of her youngest and most venomous son is in bad taste. What?
Or not his corpse, Nicholas's corpse, like the partner of her youngest and most venomous son. It's in bad taste. So I'm abandoning my bid for power. And now there's a truce, and she looks at him and says, you're coming to dinner on Saturday. Bring a salad and multiple types of salad dressing for different tastes, and lots of salad because we all like salad quite a bit.
We love a salad.
And then she just goes, and then she's like, and he's like, how do I know you're actually giving up your bid for world domination, though?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you can take Patrick as hostage. It's fine. So he quote unquote takes Patrick hostage, and Pat is freaking out because, like, they get back to Nick's house. Nick is washed. Patrick is still just oiled and dirty and grimy, and he's just sitting on the couch, and he's like, oh my God, what if he doesn't actually want me, even though he has me in his house post the fight and all of these things, and I'm covered in grime and blah, 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 blah. Well, Nick comes out, and Pat's like, I'm really sorry that I didn't tell you the thing. And Nick was like, oh, I knew that you were some villain's kid.
Well, to be fair, he kept on saying, like, you know, this guy is a family friend, and, like, being an evil minion isn't something that I'm, like, choosing to do. It's a family matter. Like, it's a family thing. It's an obligation.
Pat, our sweet dumb dummy, is like, what the fuck?
Wait, he's mad about it?
He's like, what do you mean you knew? Like, it's like, Pat,
you've been sending a lot of signals.
You're the worst at hiding this, my friend. Like,
yeah.
A better question is, why did your super smart superhero boyfriend, it would be worse if he hadn't realized it.
Yeah.
My friend. So Pat's like, but you're not mad? And Nick is like, no, it's fine. Everything's fine. No, you're fine. I support you. Like, blah. And initially Pat, because he's a sweet dummy, is like, oh, yay,
great,
I'm forgiven. Yeah. And then he like notices that Nicholas's eyelashes are fluttering in a weird way.
Uh-oh.
And he's like, so, okay, you have to tell me what's going on because I can tell that something's going on. Nick smiled a smile Pat had never seen on him before.
Uh-oh.
This smile had teeth and a knife and some wicked martial arts skills and was very satisfied with the amount of damage it could inflict. Pat wouldn't have thought that kind of expression would work on Nick's features, but it really, really did. Turned out the heroic mastermind look was kind of hot on Nick. No surprise.
Yeah.
Turns out Nick is like, I have an in with Serpentissima, and I'm going to turn her into a fucking hero.
Yeah.
You're how I'm going to do it. And Pat's like, no.
Both of you are doing the same thing.
He's
I'm not
like,
going to be a part of this.
Well, no. Get this. Pat literally says that, and Nick is like, that's the best part. That's the best part. I know she wants me. He's like, dude, my mom's trying to do the exact same thing. And Nick's like, I know. It's brilliant.
I'm going to beat her at her own game.
But then he says the cutest thing. But then Nick looks at Pat and he's like, but don't make the mistake of believing yourself to be a pawn or a prize trap, Patrick. You're not the means. You're not the end either. You're the reason.
Oh, shit.
How had he known that was exactly what Pat had needed to hear? The end.
The end.
They live happily ever after.
They're together forever, and they do a bunch of evil and good hijinks all the time.
And also so much role play in that relationship, you know?
Yeah, and urban planning that just like makes everybody's lives better.
Nick is going to fund a city.
Nick is going to fund a pet city for Patrick.
This is why we need 18 more books.
I mean,
this
in
author,
my wildest dreams.
Like, I fell into a sci-fi hole after this, but like, this is gonna be a book that I reread, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'm not a rereader, but this is like, oh my God.
It's so fun. It's so fun.
Yeah.
And like the descriptions of the scenery and everybody else are just as clever as Pat's inner monologue because it's basically told to you through Pat's inner monologue in third person, but still.
Yeah, this is all Pat.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. Pat's inner monologues is one of the greatest things that I've read in a long time.
Yeah.
Like, no doubt.
Yeah.
So,
all right, Sabrina,
Melody,
what's your lady love?
I got it first.
You
I did
did
it first. You go first.
My lady love. Hey, listener, are you due for an upgrade? Did you forget that sometimes if you're in contracts with cellular companies, they do upgrades every once in a while? And like whether or not you have a big, giant, melting dick on the screen of your phone, look into it. You know what I mean? Like you might be eligible for an
When
upgrade.
did you become eligible for an upgrade?
Months ago. Like almost a year ago.
Do you remember when I asked you when you first told me about the dick?
I don't remember
If you
that
were
at all.
ready, you should go see if you have an upgrade available for your phone.
It might have been over a year that I was eligible for an upgrade.
So I'm taking it that you did not hear me say that.
No, I might have heard it with my physical ears, but it didn't.
But you didn't.
It didn't noodle. It didn't noodle at all. But you know
didn't
what?
Take that in.
Look at this beautiful, fully functioning
Wow, you don't have to take a screenshot in order to see what's in the bottom right-hand corner of your phone anymore.
I don't
because of
have
a giant
to tap
Masaka penis.
and search around for where the little trash can button is. I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to swipe back and forth when I'm trying to read my book on my phone to reveal the words and then pull them back so I can see the other half of the words and then reveal the right-hand side of the words again.
I didn't even think about that when I realized you were eyeball reading this book. It didn't even cross my mind that you were going to have to do that the whole fucking book. When did you get your new phone?
Before I read this book. Yeah, before.
Okay.
But like a lot of times I'll read before bed, like whatever I'm pleasure reading at the time.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting there. It kept me awake a lot longer than it normally does.
I'm sure you were like super engaged.
Are you, check it out, listener. You might be eligible for an upgrade. That's my lady love. Upgrade your phone, especially when it makes your life incredibly inconvenient.
Oh my
Shockingly
God.
inconvenient.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
What's your lady love?
I forgot to think about it because I was laughing so hard about the
That's
fact
fair.
that
I'm hilarious.
You're something all right. My lady love is microwave fucking popcorn.
Ooh, yeah.
I go through phases where I just don't ever think about it, which is most of my life.
Sure.
And then when my friend was in town recently,
Mm-hmm.
they wanted popcorn as a snack. And so we got a box of popcorn.
Yeah.
And the extra buttery kind.
Of course.
I'm not eating popcorn to be healthy.
No.
I'm eating it as a vehicle for butter
None of that
flavoring.
air popped shit. I don't want that.
No,
not what I'm here for.
I want Orville Redenbacher's or whatever the fuck it's called with extra movie butter popcorn.
I want to have
Butter.
to wash my hands in between bites. You know?
Well, this I use gloves because I'm weird, but I put a glove on. You know this about me. You gave me shit about the fact that I eat my flaming hot Cheetos with gloves too.
I forgot.
I have psoriasis. I try not to wash my hands as I do it to be hygienic, but
I hear you.
it'll make my hands sad.
I'm all about it. Okay, so
Yeah.
you gloved up and you got
boy,
into that popcorn.
I've just been eating so much popcorn,
Love it.
and it makes me so happy. It's just such a good snack.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that because tonight, for the first time in a couple of months, we made popcorn for family movie time. We were watching the Bluey movie. It's not actually a Bluey movie, but normal Bluey episodes are 8 minutes, and this was a 28-minute episode, so it's essentially a Bluey movie.
Okay.
And
Episodes
we
are
had
8 minutes?
It's the perfect show. It's the perfect kid show. It's the best. Yeah. And so we had popcorn, buttered microwave popcorn for the first time in a couple of months. And it hit a spot I had forgotten I had, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, listener.
Keep being a badass.
And love yourself as much as you love roleplay sex on the job.
Yeah. Love yourself as much as you love oiling up for your mom and being a serpent slut.
Being your mom's head serpent slut.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Oh my God.
Heaving Bosoms is produced by us, Melody Carlisle and Sabrina Bradley. Editing is done by Melody Carlisle.
Our theme music is by the incredible singer-songwriter Brittany Fonts, and our art is by ultra-talented author Kate Pryor. If you like our show, remember to follow us on your favorite podcast app, rate us 5 stars, leave a nice review, and of course, tell all your friends about us, even if they don't read romance.
If you want to get in touch, you can email us at heavingbosoms.podcast@gmail.com. If you want more of us, visit patreon.com/heavingbosoms-podcast. You can also find us on Instagram at Heaving Bosoms, on TikTok at Heaving_Bosoms, and in our Facebook group, the Heaving Bosoms Geriatric Friendship Cult.
Head over to our website to sign up for our newsletter, get our Reading Embrace printable, and check out my audiobooks at heavingbosoms.com. All right, we'll be back next week with more swoons and snark. See you then.